Hi everybody, it's Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to have a look at a VS setup or volume spike setup that unfolded on a short-term chart of the Dax earlier today. But as usual, we start with our risk disclaimer and just remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken, they're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. Put another way, all professional traders know and understand, but more importantly accept that losses can and will and do unfold. Doesn't matter what trading approach you take, there always will be losing trades. Right, this is the setup I want to look at. It's on a 3-minute chart of the Dax from earlier today. As you can see, we had a nice VS buy setup. For those of you who've been following our MTPredictor videos regularly will know MTPredictor is not a black box system where we blindly take all our setups, perhaps in the direction of our MTP trend color. We look to the higher time frame chart. So the higher time frame for a 3-minute would be out of the 15-minute. If you say trading a a daily chart, the higher time frame would be the weekly. If you're trading, say, an hourly forex, you'd look to the 4-hourly chart. So for this, we go back to previous pivots. So if I put a bit of white space on the right hand side here and go back to earlier in the day, you can see we had a previous pivot here. So we right mouse click, we do decision point. Can you see that gave you an area of support? But more importantly, that area of support on the chart in advance. So what we're looking for is to see what happens if the market gets there. So if I move forward, you can see this is what happened. The market did indeed go down and tag that support zone. So let's now have a look on the 3-minute chart, i.e. the time frame you're looking to trade on, and see what happened at that time. And there you can see there it is. So there's our 15-minute support. Can you see it there? Our 15-minute support. The market came down to that level. It then made a VS buy setup or volume spike buy setup. In other words, the market was doing what we anticipated. In other words, the picture was becoming clear. This is why we don't trade 100% of the time, because we know and understand that markets are random, basically about 50% of the time. In other words, they go in cycles. So half the time you can't be doing any kind of analysis, and that's the same for pretty much any trading approach. So the trick is trading only when the pictures become clear. In other words, when the market is doing what you anticipate, in this example making a reversal at a higher time frame support zone. So we'd right mouse click over this blue buy bar, do analysis, and you can see this gave us a potential buy setup. Remember, we use position sizing to vary the number of lots, contracts or shares. In this case, it allowed you to go long one contract to have a 2% risk on a $20,000 account. You can actually have set up different account sizes if you wish. Obviously, if it's a $10,000 account, you wouldn't be able to do it. So let's go back to a 20,000. So this gave you a potential trade setup here. You were then entered into a long trade as the market went with you, and if we scroll forward, you can see the market did indeed go up to our first target here. At this point, our MTP trend was strong. In other words, it's beyond our strength band, our grey strength band. So now you'd look to run it a bit further. Also, you can then go to the higher time frame chart again to see where the next logical higher time frame resistance zone would be. So I'll just do this and go back a bit. So you will see we're in and around this area here. So here's the last pivot high. Again, we right mouse click, we do decision point. That gave you an area of potential resistance, again on the chart in advance. If we scroll forward, you can see the market later in the day did indeed reach that level. So let's have a look at see what that turned out to be on our 3-minute chart. Just wait for this to recalculate. I'll just zoom out a bit so we get the whole of the chart on, and you can see this is what happened. Just take that white space off the side there again, just so we can get the whole of the chart in, and there we go. We can see what's going on a lot better now, can't we? So the market went past this level here. So where would the next area of logical resistance be? Well, as we've said, it would be at the higher time frame resistance area. So let's grab and drag this target zone up to the higher time frame resistance area, which would be about there. And as you can see, it basically rallied all day to then reach that level where a potential profit of approximately, can I say 4? Well, just under 4, 3.9R was available. But you see how that fitted in beautifully with our higher time frame support and resistance zones, where basically our DP zone caught the low of the day. The market then rallied nicely up into our higher time frame resistance zone. Again, remember both of these were on the chart in advance. So then you're looking to trade in the direction of those that large degree uptrend. That's why the VS signal as it came in at the higher time frame support was a good one to take. There was also a trade later in the day here, but that didn't really agree with our MTP trend, so it wouldn't have been quite so good because the MTP trend wasn't agreeing with your higher time frame support and resistance. That DP sell you'd be ignoring, again because the large degree trend was up, not just off our MTP trend color. That's why we don't suggest just following this blindly as it is. We want to follow this, but when it falls in with our higher time frame DP support and resistance zones. So as you can see, a nice trade there on the DAX on a 3-minute chart where we had a VS buy setup which came off higher time frame support that basically nailed the low of the day there. You can see there's our setup coming in around as it just came in for the low of the day and holding it as the market rallied for the rest of the day. So a good example of using MTPredictor on a 3 and 15-minute chart of the DAX from earlier today.